Welcome back to American Wing Chun. I'm Sifu Matt Wright, and this video we're going to go over the third set of Siu Nim Tau. So the third set starts right after the second set, of course. So you open your stance. After you've done the punch on the right side, you've done the Hyun Sao, and you've pulled it back. Your left hand is going to open, palm up, and your elbow, you're going to hug your body as you push out for a Tan Sao position. So your hand should be palm up, and your forearm should be perpendicular to your shoulders. You should have a deep bend in your elbow. Your finger should point straight so it's not off to the side. You don't want to have an angle to your arm here. You want to have your elbow as close to the center of your body as you can, and it should be pointing exactly straight towards the mirror. Your arm should be where, if I open my hand here, this line going across my body, half of my forearm should be above that line and half of it should be below that line. So the hand is completely flat, like you're holding a book or a tray on top of your hand. From this position, you're going to bend the hand backwards, and your fingers are going to point back toward yourself, so it makes this kind of square shape in your hand. And from that position, you're going to rotate the hand down clockwise until it can't go anymore. It's going to blade open, and your elbow kicks out to the side. So this all happens from this position. It opens up. Your fingertips are at your nose height. Your hand is on your center, and your elbow is in line with your shoulder. So again, you have your elbow hug your body, open your left hand, push into the center. Your elbow is about a fist distance from your body here. Your thumb should be in line with your other fingers. So it shouldn't be in the center of your hand on top. It shouldn't be sticking out to the side this way. It should be in line as if your fingers were stacked on top of each other. So it's in that kind of orientation. So it opens and pushes to the center, bends back, rotates down until it can't anymore. Blades open, fingertips are at the bottom tip of your nose for height, so that's where that goes. And the hand is pointing straight up and down. And you have quite a distance here. From this position, you're going to pull it back to your center until it's about a fist distance from your chest here. And your fingertip should now be at the height of your chin, the bottom of your chin. So from this position, you're going to relax the hand so it bends at the wrist. You don't want to just drop your hand and have your wrist end up going to the side. It should wilt kind of like a flower. So you're controlling the relaxation in your hand and your wrist stays on the center. From this position, you're going to pull the wrist back. So your fingers, it's kind of like your hand is glued to your body and you're pressing your wrist forward, and all of this pulls back as hard as you can to get a really good stretch in your forearm, and you're building these muscles it takes to pull your hand back. So it relaxes, bends back, and you're going to press your wrist in a line straight down your center as the elbow comes into the center. So now your forearm again is perpendicular to your shoulders, and the bones in the back of your hand should be parallel to the ground. So it shouldn't be down like this, and it shouldn't be up. It should be where this is flat. The bones, again, in the back of your hand are parallel to the ground. From that position, your elbow is another, again, in this fist distance from your body position. It's going to rotate clockwise again down, and then opens back up to the Wu Sao position. Fingertips are at the nose height. Elbows in line with the shoulder. Hand is on the center. And it's going to come backwards and down until it's at your chin height. And it relaxes, presses forward so you can see it from the side here, rotates down and opens up and comes back. And you can do repetitions of this movement. And in the form, when you do this, you do one Tan Sao, so one of these flat palm up positions, circles and rolls back and comes back down. And you relax, you do this position 3 times. So this will be 1, rolls up, comes back, relaxes for number 2, rolls up, comes back, relaxes, and you do number 3. Rotates down and comes up on the last one, comes back, Then from this position, you're going to palm to your shoulder, and you use your eyes to look the direction your hands are going. From this edge of your body, you're going to bring it back to the center, looking back straight forward. The hand is going to rotate and pivot on the center, and you're going to palm in a straight line, straight forward. Just like when you did the punch, your arm should be parallel to the ground. Same thing with your palm strike. It's the same position, just a different placement or a different hand movement. So I'm doing a palm strike instead of a punch. So I went to the shoulder, back to the center, faces forward in palms, hand goes flat, palm up, rotates around for another Hyun Sao like you did with the punch, and then turns and comes back. All those details on the right side too. So the right hand is going to open, elbow hugs the body as it comes in for the Tan Sao. Hand bends backwards and rotates down, opens and hand stays on the center, elbow is now in line with the shoulder, and you pull back until your fingers are at your chin height, and it's a fist distance from your body with your hand to your chest. Relaxes, presses forward, elbow comes back in, so this will be the first Fuk Sao, comes up, comes back, this will be number 2, rolls up and back, relaxes, and this is number 3, rolls up, back, palm to the shoulder, comes back to the center, faces forward and palm straight out, hand goes flat, Hyun Sao into a fist, turns and comes back. So this movement, or this whole section, is probably the most important part of the whole form. It's also the most boring, but it teaches you the very important aspect of how to push with your elbow. So a lot of people, when they learn how to punch in Wing Chun, they tend to do a hammering motion, which makes their force go downwards. This part of the form, you're really focusing on using your elbow to push and to pull with. So it shouldn't be where I'm dropping my wrist and I'm losing this height that I had. Now I'm open, I want to keep this up so I'm protected here. When I roll this out, when I pull back, I also want to pull with my elbow. I don't want to hinge from my elbow. So this is a hammer pulling back, and I don't want to hammer going forward. I want to pull with my elbow backwards, relaxes, pushes with my elbow forward. And anytime you repeat a movement in the form a number of times, it's probably because they wanted you to pay attention to it. So we're doing one Tan Sao here, but we're doing this movement a few repetitions in a row. So pay a close attention to this movement, make sure you're doing it properly, and put in the training on this one part of the form. This will benefit your Wing Chun greatly. And this rolls up and it goes back. Another detail is when you're in the Wu Sao position, make sure your fingers are not splayed open or just relaxed and kind of limp or even dead. Make sure you have a good structure to your Wu Sao. The blade, if you think about your arm like a blade, the pinky side all the way going down the bone is the blade of the arm. Make sure the blade is facing forward when you're in this position. So I don't want to be pressing forward and have it go back too far. The finger shouldn't point back at you. It should be pointing straight up and down. And it definitely shouldn't be pointing forward as it comes back. This is being lazy with the Wu Sao, and you want to make sure you do have it pointing up and down. And you do repetitions of this. This takes quite a while to do. And then you do the same thing on the right side. Comes out, rolls up, comes back, relaxes, pushes out, rolls down and up, comes back, relaxes, pushes forward, rolls down and up, comes back. You do that 3 times in a row. It's easy to lose track of the numbers you do because your mind starts to wander while you're doing the movements. So this is also part of the meditation of it, where you have to keep your concentration solely on what you're doing as you're doing it. So the name of the form, Siu Nim Tau, meaning little idea, this is where you really start to get a sense for that. I'm focusing on the movement I'm doing as I'm doing it, and I have to keep track of the number that I'm doing. So this is number 1, and it comes back. Number 2, rolls up, comes back, and number 3. Doing exactly 3 is not an easy thing to do. You'll find yourself doing either only 2, or you start going 3, 4, 5. Trying to do exactly 3 makes your mind concentrate on the task at hand. If you're starting to think about what you're going to eat when you go home for dinner, that's your mind wandering and doing something else and you're distracted. Try to bring your mind back into focus and do exactly what you're supposed to do when you're doing the form. So that is the 3rd set of Siu Nim Tau. There's a lot of details to it. There is one more detail I do want to mention. This is kind of an interesting thing. Once you've done your Tan Sao and you've done the half Hewn Sao, so that's what this movement's called when you circle this down and rotate up. This is a half Hewn Sao as opposed to the full circle. You're doing a half circle. When you do the Fuq Sao, I relax the hand and I bend it back and I start pressing forward. My thumb is actually going to do something interesting here. The way I explain it to my students is I take the pad of my thumb and I try to touch it to this line of my thumb. So it's like you're pressing, almost like you're pressing on a detonator, except instead of going down here, you're pulling it back. So when I'm doing that from this part of the form, pressing it forward, it creates kind of a cramping sensation in your forearm. And it builds specific muscle groups in the arm while you circle this, and it strengthens your elbow joint. When we do our punching in the air, and you fully extend this all the way out, when you eventually get to BUG, if you haven't done this kind of joint strengthening exercise, by the time you get there and you're able to generate all this force and you're doing your movement incorrectly and hammering with your elbow, which you're trying to avoid with this movement, you need to have your joints reinforced and strengthened to the point where they don't just snap off the first movement that you do at that kind of power. So this part of the form really builds and conditions your body to be able to take the force you're able to generate from the Wing Chun movements. And it takes time to develop that. That doesn't happen overnight. So if someone tries to learn Siu Nim Tau, Chum Kiu, and BUG like in a year, that is way too fast. You have to spend a lot of time on just this one basic movement to get the conditioning necessary to be able to do the other movements in the more advanced forms without injuring your own body. So there is a process that we go in for a reason. It always is the same order of Siu Nim Tau, then Chum Kiu, and then BUG. So do not neglect this part of the form. Everybody tends to not like this because it's so monotonous and so boring. It's actually the slowest part of the form, but it's also the most important. And get used to and get good at doing the boring things. That means no one else is practicing it. But if you practice this, this will greatly enhance your Wing Chun, and you'll see the benefits of it later down the road, and you'll be glad that you put the training in now instead of way later on when you should have already had it good. So get it good now, and you'll be good later on. So that's the end of the 3rd set, and I'll see you on the next video. So that's it for this video. If you found this video helpful, please remember to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And if you click the bell button, you can get notifications for when we release new videos. Also, we have a Patreon that you can support, and if you go to the student tier, you can join us in our Zoom classes. The basic tier, you can actually get access to our Discord channel where you can interact with other students of the school, and you can ask technical questions through the chat there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.